So we were walking along, Dorian, my girlfriend, and I were walking along in Bond Street tube station, and there was this fantastic sound coming from right down by the tracks, and there was this busker playing like Tom Verlaine through an echoplex, and it was brilliant. It was just permeated through. And I said to Dorian, "Wow, this is fantastic." So I got my pound out, right, because I never give any money to buskers. So it kind of accumulates. So when you meet a real genius, you give them the money, sort of thing. I got the quid out. And I threw it down, and I looked up, and it was this guy, Steve Lovell, and all this echoplex and weirdness out there. I thought, far out. And he was really embarrassed because he'd been in various Liverpool groups and everything, and he'd always done demos and stuff. So anyway, we had a chat, and I went away, and I said to Dorian, he'd be perfect to do the album because he's brilliant. And he'd be the low-key kind of person, you know. Mm-hmm. So I came back to Phonogram. I said, I found a producer.
Where is it? Basking in the tube station.
He's in Bond Street tube station. So they just said, oh yeah, it's Julian. Julian's back, he's doing an album, and this is going to be a big problem. So we went away to Tamworth, and there's a little studio in Tamworth where this guy who's a teacher has a part-time studio. We did 11 tracks with this guy, Steve Lovell. Just me and him. We came back and we did 11 tracks for an incredible cheap amount of money. And they said, wow, great, okay, you can produce it. So that's why I refused to knock the record company out. I mean, I'll knock them when they fuck me up, but they haven't fucked me up even slightly yet. And we went away and we did the album in a better studio. And it came out, you know. And now he's doing the Flock of Seagulls album.
Why do you think you've achieved this label of he's living on another planet problem?
I don't know. I think it's really...
This is a general impression of the people in the music industry when one talks about Julian Cope, saying, oh, that guy was, you know, 1,000 miles away thinking about something totally different. And yet, you know...
I always think that it relates to them. I think that...
It's a general myth that's been built around...
I don't know, I think it must be... I get people who are surprised that I can make a sentence and things like that. You know? It's true, and it's just so funny, because I don't know if they're disappointed.
That you can, you mean?
But I can, yeah. I really genuinely think it's a reflection of those people. That they would think that I'm not even slightly from another planet. I think that I'm humanity personified.
I think some of the damage actually, about whether you one calls it damage or not, came from when the three main Liverpool bands, as you echo and Wow, were all mouthing off against each other on the radio and in the press. I think that's how you three, the three bands, got their labels. I think got these labels, and you achieved that. I think I really put it down to that, if anything.
See, I mean, that's a... We weren't like a Top of the Pops group, so I think a lot of it was to do. You see, that what happened was, I mean, like just on a pure drug level, right? A lot of LSD arrived in Liverpool around the time of Kilimanjaro, and a lot of people took it, and a lot of people didn't. And the people who decided not to take it kind of missed out because it was a real unique experience to suddenly be doing something in Liverpool, of all places, with the music that we were listening to actually be experiencing modern LSD, because modern LSD is so different from, you know,
Tom Literature. From the 60s.
From the 60s, yeah. I mean, it's modern LSD. It's the way modern LSD should be. It's chemical and it tears your brain out, and you can feel brain cells dying as you're experiencing everything. You know, I mean, like, I got given crystal acid in San Francisco, and we drove across to Boulder, Colorado. So we had 1,200 miles of crystal acid. And I could understand the Grateful Dead. I thought, okay, if I'd been taking this for 2 years, I would believe that I understood everything in the world. You know, because I was seeing sheet lightning storms and snakes and everything. I was going, yeah, I understand, I can dig that. And I understood everything. But we were having like a modern equivalent. And so we'd walk into Brian's cafe, the Bunnyman would be in one corner, we'd be in another corner, and we'd be watching chicken and chips elevating off the plates and that kind of thing. We'd be watching this ex-boxer serving mugs of tea with all the etiquette of the sailors in Jack Brol's songs, real. And you'd be experiencing it, and it wasn't go out and get your head together. It was go out and walk around and see all these people who are having an incredibly heavy time, and that was what it was. It was a kind of a hedonistic thing, as opposed to a find yourself thing, because you just see things, and it's just got to be the most incredible thing.
It wasn't just perhaps being. You weren't on auto-destruct, were you?
No. I mean, maybe we got into that idea for a while. I don't know whether drug experiences are important or not. I mean, I think that they do affect.
I was talking to Joe Strummer the other day, and he said, I think the world has got to realise that it's 1984 and the era of drug is now over. Drugs are an old-fashioned thing, and such like phrases. And I think perhaps this is what you're trying to say as well. You might agree on some points with that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I haven't taken it for a while, but that was just on a pure personal level.
Yeah.
I mean, on a personal level, I wouldn't have tell anybody to take anything like that.
Yeah. Well, was it necessary for you to go through those experiences?
Yeah, I think that it was incredibly necessary. I mean, I don't want to start saying that wasn't important, because I think that it was important, and I think that's why I don't see that I do see them as utterly different from a kind of a 60s thing, because I think they were taken in a completely different way.
The best rock music that has come from, I mean, everybody agrees that came emerged in the 60s, and some of the best, you could say. And all the people that performed that sort of music were all up there. Hendrix, Dylan, the Stones, the Beatles, all these big names are all up there. So I think in a way it's a valid necessity of.
I personally think that in moderate quantities, any drug can expand your mental capacity. I mean, abuse obviously destroys it here, but it can stimulate you more than anything else.
What I wanted to do, all I was trying to do, was take things, put things in completely different context. Like say, do Top of the Pops in the middle of a really blinding acid trip, and it was brilliant, because they have things like a live Top of the Pops, right? A live Top of the Pops you don't play, that you don't
yes,
play.
Of course,
right?
you mime, but
you mime
only
live.
live television.
Yeah.
Right.
We did a live Top of the Pops, and I had 2 microdots about 2 hours before. So about half an hour before we went on TV, I just went, okay, right, and they were holding me from the door, because I said, we've got to do it now. And they said, no, it's live, you've got to do it in a minute. And I got on, and I stand on the grand piano in my bare feet. Gary was doing exactly the same thing. Gary's there. Right. Which song is it? And I thought, right, people were saying, so we're throwing out numbers like 20 million people will be watching. You have to get it right. There are 3 verses in this song, and stuff like that. So I got on stage. Bucks Fizz were on the other side. The boom mic comes across, just about misses me, and we start. And it was phenomenal, and I could not deny myself that experience, because it's like saying, okay, we're a commercial entity, but at any minute we can fall apart. And if I was going to fall apart, I was going to fall apart in front of 20 million people. I was going to fall through a piano, and that's what I wanted to do, because that was what it was. Because that's the only thing that's the only way that I could kind of make sense of what a pathetic, completely pathetic side of my art was. And at the most pathetic, it's nothing, it's like worse than cleaning toilets out.
I've seen you though, if anything, the way you said falling apart, I think that happened on the whistle test, didn't it? I've seen one incredible performance of you on the whistle test where I really believe that you didn't know you were there. Honest. I mean, you were absolutely, if I had to use a 60s expression, way out. You were doing things with the mic and facial expressions. I mean,
Well, I found the camera towards the end of that gig. It was good because the cameraman. Yeah, I remember that actually. See, I mean, you could really treat that as an asset, because it would mean that you'd never get anything the same. You know, I mean, like, you wouldn't go into a rap every night and say, okay, stream of consciousness time, we take it down, and I go into my well thought out rap that I've been doing for the past 4 weeks or something. You wouldn't do that. I mean, it also meant that I could be really crap a lot of nights. You know, you'd get like 80% of nights I'd be terrible. But when the teardrops were good, it would mean that we were really good. You know.
So when you're out of the so-called trip, do things like this make sense to you then? I mean, like when you've got to your mind now, do they make sense to you, or do they make better sense of you?
No, they make sense. They make sense like they make sense the way everything makes sense. Yeah, I mean, like, does romantic poetry make less sense? You know, make only good sense. You know, when you've taken a lot of opium. You know, it's that kind of thing. It's like the best. I mean, it's like, that's why their Satanic Majesty's Request was a bad album, because if you weren't tripping, it was crap. But if you were tripping, it was okay. But I mean, I suppose
Especially with the 3D color, yeah.
that's it, yeah. Yeah, and that is the difference. I mean, like, something that's good has got to be good all the time. It's the same with a pop song. A pop song might have the best lyrics ever written, but if it's got a crap tune, nobody's going to sing it. You know, it's got to work on a crass level as well as a very, very special one. What I wanted to do an album that was an album of songs, and I didn't want it to rely on style. What I wanted it to do was to rely on songs. And it's always like a fight in me not to put an incredible amount of like 60s style into things. And it's far more important to me to have just a first album of very strong songs, because the second album it started to be demoed, and I think it's going to be a lot weirder. And I didn't want to just come back. A lot of people said, you know, we were really worried that you'd come back and it would just be like an album of all your B-sides, you know, teardrop B-sides, you know. And I felt that. You know, I mean, I started doing demos and like there were some pretty strange songs. And I thought, well, hold on, this is a little bit kind of, I'm not like that. You know, I don't want to be making psychedelic music, because I'd rather the actual personality of the songs is psychedelic as opposed to the style being psychedelic. You know, I mean, I think Matt Johnson has a psychedelic. The personality is psychedelic, you know. So for him to add anything that was kind of like, okay, stylistically this is what it is as well, would be pointless, really.
You seem to belong to a select group of people, in a sense, that perhaps have dedicated their lives really to output a certain type of material. I wouldn't put a label to it like psychedelic or whatever, but you do belong to this select few that have emerged from the 60s, you know, saying the Velvets and people like that, touching on some things that the Doors have done, Walker Brothers, Bowie, I would say to a certain extent. I can see belonging to that set group, you know, which and it's very much associated with people coming from up north for some reason or another. I've always felt that people who came from up north had something much more, or something better to offer, really, something more soulful. Do you agree?
Yeah, but I just think it's because the north is unencumbered by fashion, so it's far more bothered about its actual style, about developing something that even at its worst will be stylish, you know. I mean, it worries me sometimes, because sometimes I think it's really bad, you know. But then again, it's like, say, when we formed, we were, say, the Bunnyman, the Teardrops, and quite a few people around of you know, not so much groups, but people of that kind of group of friends were listening to very much like the Elevators and the Chocolate Watch Band and the Seeds. So that's where the names were coming from, right? Because at that time it was very much a reaction. We were still underground, but it was very much a reaction against these very kind of like severe names. We wanted something that was ridiculous. You know, we wanted something that would fit with like an international artists kind of thing. But we did. But being northern, we didn't want to just say, okay, let's form a revival. Let's all wear paisley shirts and everything, because that was what was so good about all those groups. It was scary that Rocky Erickson didn't walk around with. You know, I mean, the guy was fucking. You know, I mean, where was that guy at, sort of thing. Then I felt completely vindicated because for that belief. Suddenly, London comes up with a new psychedelic revival, where everybody dresses like Carnaby Street 67, and they all sound like the Hollies.
It's all contrived, yeah.
That's it, yeah. You know, and they. So what do? You go to the Groovy Cellar, right? Les Pattinson from the Bunnyman got turned away from the Groovy Cellar. Now, if I knew anybody more psychedelic than Les, I'd tell you, but there isn't anybody. Like that guy is he's over there. You know, some of the songs that he's written are absolutely brilliant. The idea of him being turned away, you know, I think it's more ridiculous than Hendrix being turned away because he wasn't dressed right. To me, the whole way that he stands is more far out than most people that I've ever seen. I mean, the guy is just unbelievable. And that's when I suddenly realised we were completely right, you know, for shying away for that sort of thing. And that's kind of why I shied away from the whole kind of like putting a style on it, you know. Because those people, you know, it was like Pere Ubu. The first time I saw Pere Ubu, I had this idea of what they were going to look like. And then I saw them. 2 of them had long hair, 2 of them had short hair, 1 of them was balding, 1 of them had flares on, 1 of them had a suit on, 1 of them was fat, 1 of them was thin. You know, half of them, you know, what is it? The keyboard player, Alan Ravenstein, was a janitor in a building in Cleveland that David Thomas worked in. You know, I mean, like, they were part-timers who didn't want to go any further. When I found out that Pere Ubu were coming over in early 1978, I went to Manchester and slept on the bus station floor, you know, because I couldn't get home that night. I just had to see them, and it was brilliant. And it was better for me that they looked like that than anything, because I hadn't really got any idea, because I'd only got the singles, and the album had been out like a week. So I listened like a maniac to the album, gone out, and I saw the pop group supporting, but the pop group looked right, and I loved the pop group, but they looked the way they should look, you know? Right. They always looked just slightly right, which kind of spoiled it for me. Pere Ubu
look dangerous.
Yeah, they look dangerous because they look like they were 1978's version of yippies. You know, they looked like they could have been the thugs because they didn't know really. You know, they were all standing there. They were doing this music, and really they didn't really know the way they should dress. And then they kind of, like David Thomas, and they kind of spoilt it in a way. Modern dance, dub housing period, unbelievable. It's like really, you know, it's like, and it is like saying like a Texas group, you know. Just go.
They were menacing to the established music industry, right?